Hello. Today, my colleagues and I will host a wide ranging dialogue and raise interdisciplinary ideas when analyzing the issue of diversity in the British publishing industry. Before we dive into this analysis of the British publishing industry, I believe it's important for us to understand the current state of diversity within this field. Currently, it's clear that the British publishing industry has a problem with the lack of diversity, and this can be mostly made sense of in terms of the ethnic and racial composition of its workforce. As according to the 2019 Publishers Association Workforce Survey, only 13% of respondents surveyed identified as BAME, meaning Black, Asian, or minority ethnic. Another statistic which reflects the diversity issue within the UK publishing industry is the homogeneous race composition of the industry has not changed since 2015. In 2015, 79% of workers within the publishing industry identified themselves as white, and in 2019, that number stood at 76%. This small 3% decrease reflects that there has been no significant evolution in the amount of diversity seen in the UK publishing industry. But now you might be wondering, why does this matter? Well, for three reasons. Firstly, in artistic terms, more diverse workforce generally means more diverse cultural products. So that's a really important reason. A second reason is that if you see more or non-changing group of white people working in the publishing industry, this highlights the minorities are not part of this heavily important industry that is publishing. That has a huge impact of the culture of the UK. And thirdly, thinking more of a business terms, studies from Harvard Business School have shown that more diverse companies deliver better results and perform better, thus reflecting that also for business reasons, companies in the publishing industry should strive to be diverse. Now, let's break down through a dialogue the specific issues surrounding the UK publishing industry and attempt to think of potential solutions to these issues. My friend Kim will now take over.
Hey, great, thanks. Okay, so the problem is that people assume that we could enforce the publishing industry to hire a certain percentage of authors to be minority authors. And every business out there is to make money. So thereby, of course, we want to pursue the meritocracy system to produce the books with the highest quality to attract more sales. But the first problem we might encounter for enforcing the publishing sector to hire a certain percentage of minority authors is that we might lead to the issue of tokenism. So tokenism refers to when writers of colors are published in order to tick a diversity box. So as a result, we should focus on only publishing the books which have the highest quality. However, here comes the second problem with the diverging opinion with the definition of quality. So the notions of quality is very subjective because they are shaped by a very particular experience and education. And we also have a different perception of quality that arises from the cultural value and economical value. Unfortunately, these two poles are more likely to exist in tension. And in short, what we can do here is very limited, is that we can only hope for the publishing sector to take the cultural value more seriously, and that's how the economic case for diversity will be really felt. And also, there's a problem with comping. Comping is basically the process of finding comparative titles in order to predict sales, which is at the core of the commercial publishing. So at the beginning, comping is supposed to make comparisons in order to amplify the commercial value of the book. But it has been very constraining when it comes to the writers of non-color, as they typically target the niche audience, which we have very limited data about.
Yeah, I think all of these problems could be lying mainly from the inclusivity problem. So, and that could be tackled by trying to make these BAME authors feel more inclusive. As an example, Margaret Busby, a writer and pioneering publisher, regards the endeavor for better representation in publishing as a Sisyphean struggle, meaning that it's a really hard task, and the solution could lie in mentorship schemes, for example, basically. The main problem in the diversity question is to maintain that diversity within the publishing house and opt out of these initial initiatives that do not usually last beyond a year. They should turn these initial initiatives and turn them into long-term commitment goals. And with mentorship schemes, they could maybe accomplish that. So creating a sense of mentorship would create even a bond between a new generation of BAME artists and the people from all levels of the publishing house. So to make them maybe feel more involved, this bonding sense would make them feel even more included. So also, as you mentioned, the fear of niche could be a problem as well. It could be solved by hiring some diverse authors throughout different levels of the publishing house also. So which would help rethink the definition of quality, which is mandatory in this case. So by bringing in BAME workers in all different levels of the publishing house, they'll be able to identify the books that would appeal to different audiences, since quality is subjective. So maybe trying to get out of that niche bracket as well. So maybe therefore the books that in the past haven't had the seal of approval because the publisher didn't think the audience would see the quality in it, they will now be put on shelves.
Oh, that's very interesting. But that, like what we discovered from the report is that there's also the problems of exoticization and the fear of commercial risk. So writers of colors are essentially promoted to appeal to this core audience, which is the white middle class audience, which can lead to their exoticization and marginalization. And this is particularly obvious in redesigning the book covers, as there remains a fear that featuring a racial or ethnic minority person on the cover could lead to diminished sales. So therefore, it's generally quite often to see the racial background literally being whitened on covers. And this could be seen in one of the examples we had in the very early of in our Vic 2 tutorials, which we studied about the Black Bazaar. If you guys still remember, this book has two different book cover versions, with one a black guy in front of the cover in 2010, and the other one which is a comical character with some more exaggerations at the book cover in 2012. And what makes this transition of the book cover is essentially the same for the purpose of whitewashing and to make it more appealing to the white middle class audience. And here we have the evidence on Google Trend, which show the searches and sales of the book from 2009 to 2012, which have been rising consistently. And yeah.
Yeah, I think this problem could be represented by an example. The solution can be represented by an example, which is one of the initiatives that was taken and was successfully taken by one of the writer and campaigner called Nikesh Shukla, who published an anthology in 2016 showcasing work from underappreciated BAME writers, which later sold over 60,000 copies, which showcases that different publishing channels could know relative success, and trying to move away from institutionalized publishing houses. A stream of publishing that these BAME writers could choose to go for could be the one of independent nature, meaning that they could publish the book covers and market their books as they want, and not how the publishing house views maybe their ethnicity or without any exoticization, basically.
Yes, another solution that I believe that we could talk about is that we could change the view that publishing companies have on cover art. Instead of viewing cover art as a marketing mechanism, cover arts must be now seen as artifacts of culture expression. And by doing so, there would be, I believe, the publishing industry itself have less of the motivation to change or whitewash book covers.
So you think it's a question of perception, right?
Yes, the moment that they change their perception and stop viewing covers as a marketing tool, the whitewash will likely stop. I think also this should stop for business reasons as well, as now that a majority of the channels used to sell books comes from online, and this online channel has been growing, covers have been losing more and more their marketing importance. So I believe that now covers should be seen as cultural expressions, and therefore that will likely lead to less whitewash as well.
Yeah, because this kind of lead nicely to our next problem, which is that we have been relying too much on the traditional ways of finding new authors, which just generally do not work. It is just misleading to assume that the BAME audiences will automatically just attend when we hold literature festivals outside London in regions with a strong BAME populations, as it does not just essentially equal to there will be a large BAME audiences that are interested as much in literature will attend in that festivals, right?
Kim, you raised a good point about the traditional ways of finding authors is not good enough. And I think that the reason for this is that as the core audience for publishers is the white middle British class, I believe that the whole industry is set up to cater for this one audience. Consequently, this affects how the industry looks and finds for new minority authors, as because they don't think that their core audience will like this, they don't really spend a lot of research trying to find that.
Yeah, I think this lack of creativity in the traditional ways of finding new authors comes from the fact that in the UK, a big stream for publishing and showcasing artists, authors, are mainly in festivals, publishing festivals, and usually those are all based in London. What they could try to do is try to multiply the stream of entrants by setting up festivals all around the UK and an abundance of them as well. So making these festivals truly open to all will make the authors of marginalized backgrounds feel less excluded, especially the ones living in cities where exposure is minimal.
Great points, Sam. So in conclusion, there's an issue of diversity in the publishing industry, and this is generally due to the fact that BAME writers in the industry are being exoticized, marginalized, and this problem mainly lies within the publishing institutions. Problems arise generally from the comping system, as well as the already established meritocracy structure and the fixed core audience, but there's many other issues. Nevertheless, some solutions can be envisioned, and we touched upon some of them today, and this includes, but is not limited to, hire a more diverse workforce, move away from institutionalization, and the mentorship scheme that could increase the inclusivity of the workforce. Thank you so much, and until next time.
Thank you.